Still images are wonderful additions to many video projects, whether they be photographs, graphics, or titles. In this movie, we're going to take a look at how to bring still images into your project and how to work with them in the context of a video environment. Alright, let's first talk about a couple of tips on bringing still images into a Premiere project. So before actually bringing them in, I'm going to come up to Premiere Pro, Preferences, and General, and this is under the Edit menu on a PC. And if we take a look right here, still image default duration, it's at 150 frames, so in a 30 frame per second project, that's 5 seconds. So you can make that shorter or longer to your liking, but I really wouldn't worry about this too much, because when you're working with stills, you can always make them longer or shorter in the timeline by just trimming them in or out. This is just where it starts at. I also want to come down to this checkbox here, default scale to frame size. By default, this is turned off, which is usually what you want. If you check this, then Premiere takes very large images, say several thousand pixels in size, and scales them down to video resolution. It also takes smaller images and scales it up. Now, this usually isn't desirable because if the image starts out large, it can really limit your ability to zoom into the image. It makes you lose resolution more quickly than you would otherwise. So I'll leave this off for now, and I'll say OK. Alright, so if you're following along with the exercise files, we already have a bin of stills up here in the assets right here, but we're going to bring them in ourselves right now. So I'm going to click on my 9.1 bin, and I can either just right-click and choose Import, or I can use the Media Browser, which is what I'm going to do now because it's a little bit more powerful. So I'm going to click on the Media Browser, and I'm going to press tilde so I can see this a little bit better, and we're going to go into exercise files and then creative letterpress media, and stills. And you can see that we see our stills right here. If you can't see this, make sure that you're on icon view instead of list view. So I'm on icon view, and right now I see all of the stills in my stills folder. You can break this down by file type if you want. You just come up here to the filter. Right now, all supported files are chosen, but if I just want to take a look at my JPEGs, for example, I can click on that one, and it filters out just my JPEGs. These are just photos that were taken on like an iPhone. I can also add to that, so if I want all of my JPEGs and all of my TIFFs, more get added, and then if I want my Photoshop files as well, we get more. Alright, so use that filter however you need to. You can command click on the files that you want to bring in, or you can just select them all and just lasso everything, or you can just click on one and press Command A or Control A on a PC. And I am going to bring everything in, so I'm going to right click and import. There is one Photoshop file right here, and I have the option of merging all the layers or including individual layers. We are going to take a look in a future movie at dealing with individual layers in a Photoshop file, but for now I'm just going to merge all the layers. I'll say OK, and then I'll come back over to my project pane, and you can see that in my 9.1 bin, all of my stills came in. Now I'm in list view right now, so if I want, I can take a look at video info here and drag this over to the left so I can see everything. So this actually tells you the size of the images. So we have some images that are about the same size as our video resolution, and these here are much larger, and here is sort of an irregular frame size. Alright, I'm going to press tilde to minimize here, and as we've learned, Premiere Pro sets up sequence settings by the first video clip that you drop into the timeline. So one tip that I have is that instead of dropping a still image into the sequence first, you should edit a representative video clip. And all I mean by that is a video clip that matches what most of your footage is into the timeline, so you can sort of lock in your sequence settings. And then when you put stills in after that, everything will already be set up. I do have my interviews bin right here, and I'm just going to come in here and drop my first clip in, a Kelly clip maybe, and we'll drop it into the timeline. And let's go ahead and just name this. I'm just going to call this Stills Practice. And I'll press tilde, and I'll just put that in the 9.1 bin at large, and tilde again. And now my sequence is set up with the proper sequence settings. I can even delete this now, and those sequence settings are still set up. You can always check that by going up to Sequence, Sequence Settings, and then here are my sequence settings. I can change those if I want, but right now I've set it up and I like it. Alright, now what I want to do is start editing some of the stills into the timeline to show you a little bit about how things work. I think I'm going to go over to icon view so I can see what we're looking at here. So I'm just going to switch over to icon view, and then I'm just going to Command double click on exercise files and Command double click on chapter 9 and 9.1. And so here are all of my stills. Let's go ahead and bring in my Photoshop file, And let's go ahead and bring in this iPhone photo of Doug, and then also this shot here. All right, and I'm going to switch back to list view for just a moment here. As you can see here, we have some landscape images, and then we don't really know what that one is, and this one looks like it's perfectly sized for my video resolution, which it is. This, as you can see, is a 1280 by 720 image, and that's the video resolution of my project, 1280 by 720. So every single one of the pixels of this image is in view. If I come back to this one here, however, that's not the case. Again, the resolution of this image is 3264 by 2448, so we're only seeing a portion of this image right now. If I click on this and then instead of fit, if I choose, for example, 10 or 25%, and then I double click on this image here, you're able to see a wireframe of how large this image actually is. So this is really common. You know, most photographs are a lot higher in resolution than most video, so this is a good thing because it's going to allow us to zoom into the still without losing our resolution. So I'm going to go back to fit here, so we're only seeing a portion of it. And if I would like to see the entire image within the frame, you just right-click on the image in the timeline and you choose Scale to Frame Size. And now you're seeing the entire image. Now, if you remember, this was the option within the preferences that I told you about earlier. Again, Premiere Pro, Preferences General, and Default Scale to Frame Size, okay? So we left that unchecked so that we would have all of the pixels available of this picture. But the cool thing is that even if you do want it, you can do it after the fact. You can just right-click on the clip in the timeline and make that happen. And I did want to mention one more thing. These black bars on either edge of the frame are a result of my scaling so that the image fits in the video frame without being undesiredly stretched or squeezed. This black, however, isn't actually black. It's really transparent. So if I grab just an interview shot here and drop it in the timeline, and then I put this image on top of it, you can see that we're seeing right through to Doug's green screen. I'm gonna just hide this for a moment so you can see what I'm talking about. So we're seeing right through. Now, sometimes that's a good thing. You need to do some picture-in-picture. But if you're using a still as B-roll over a talking head, for example, it's probably not a good thing. So in this case, you'll probably want to create a generic background, which you can actually do right here in the New Item menu. I just click on New Item, and I choose Color Matte. It matches the exact video resolution of my project, so I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to choose the color. I'll just do black, it's fine. And I'm just going to call this black background. And I'll just take that out of the interviews bin. And then what I would do is just drag this up a track and then bring this down below it. And so now we're seeing the black background behind this image rather than our green screen. So that could be useful for you. This black background can be used again and again, so if I want to drop it down here and put my Photoshop file over it, for example, now we're seeing the black background behind our title. So you can use this black background for a number of purposes. Now finally, the very last thing I wanted to show you is how to export a still from your project. So basically you just park on the frame in the sequence or a clip loaded in the source monitor that you want to export. So in our case, I think I'll go ahead and just export picture of Doug right there. Okay, so I've parked, and now I'm going to press Shift-E, that's the export frame command, and then here you can name it. I'll just do Doug close-up interview 1. You can choose the format, TIFF is just fine, and then here you can choose the path. Just click on the Browse button and send it wherever you want to. And then here is a really cool option, Import into Project. Wherever that is, it's going to import it right back into your project so you can use it to edit with. Alright, so as you can see, working with still images is a lot like working with regular video, but there are a few things that you should be aware of so that you can take full advantage of everything they have to offer.